Hey there, it's Leona. Welcome to Zen Mindfulness Shodo. Today, we are going to practice Shodo meditation while focusing on the Kanji character for child. So, let's begin our beautiful journey together. When you write a character, imagine a square about the size of the character that you are going to write like this. First, I'm going to write it. Then I'm going to explain the points and tips for writing the character beautifully in detail. Now I'm gonna explain the points and tips for writing this character beautifully. First stroke starts from a point a bit higher than the center point of the top left square, or a point slightly to the left of that. Place the brush at about a 45-degree angle while holding it straight up. Before moving the brush to the right, lightly push the brush towards the tip of it in order to stabilize the brush. The stroke moves to the right while curving up just a tiny bit and getting thinner until the middle vertical line is in the middle of the stroke, or slightly to the right. It stops here at about a 45-degree angle for a second, before it checks downward to the left. Like the beginning point of this stroke, lightly push the brush towards the tip of it and stabilize it. This diagonal part of the stroke is curving down a little bit. The stroke checks downward to the left at about a 45-degree angle while curving down and getting thinner until the middle vertical line. The second stroke begins around the end point of the first stroke. The starting point of the stroke lightly touches the end point of the first stroke. Lightly place the brush at about 30 to 45 degrees. At the beginning, the strokes moves downward to the right just a little bit. Lightly stop here, like the starting point of the first stroke. Lightly push the brush towards the tip of it and stabilize the brush here again. Then until a point at which the space above the highest point of the first stroke and the space below the lowest point of the second stroke are almost the same size. It moves down while curving to the right until the middle vertical line. It checks upward to the left towards the beginning point of the next stroke. It looks more beautiful when the angle of the check is perpendicular to the vertical stroke. Lift the brush from the paper gradually while moving to the left. Let the tip of the brush leave the paper to create the pointy part. The way of creating the third stroke is the same as the Kanji character 1. It starts from a point a bit to the left of the middle of the left half of the middle horizontal line. Like the beginning point of the first stroke, place the brush at about a 45-degree angle and lightly push the brush towards the tip of it and stabilize the brush. This stroke is slightly curving up, so it moves to the right while curving up parallel to the horizontal part of the first stroke until the middle vertical line is in the middle of the stroke. The left half of the stroke moves to the right parallel to the horizontal part of the first stroke after it passed the middle vertical line or the second stroke. Instead of keep moving upward to the right parallel to the horizontal part of the first stroke, the upward angle gets less steep and it moves to the right almost parallel to the middle horizontal line. At the end, like the starting point of the stroke, lightly push the brush towards the tip of it without putting pressure. Then the end point will look smooth like this. If you press the brush down here, the ink may blur or a bump may form under the line. So please just pause lightly for about a second. And this third stroke goes through a point a bit lower than the starting point of the second stroke. One of the key points when writing this character is the angle at which you draw the first stroke. For example, I'm gonna write an example here. If you create the first stroke like this angle looks closer to the horizontal line than a 45-degree angle. If this angle is about 45 degrees, this angle is closer to the horizontal line. When the angle of this diagonal part is closer to the horizontal line, the space between the horizontal part and the diagonal part gets smaller, so it might look a bit cramped. So try to make this space look bigger by scooping downward to the left while curving down at about 45 degrees. Another key point is the curve of the second stroke. Let me write an example here. After creating the first stroke, if you make the second stroke moving straight down, almost tracing the middle vertical line like this, after finishing the last stroke, if you look at the character as a whole, don't you think it looks a bit unstable? When comparing this character, where the second stroke is written with a curve to the right, with the character where the second stroke is written straight, tracing the middle vertical line or parallel to it, doesn't this character, with this part looking thinner, look a bit less stable overall? By curving the second stroke to the right and creating more width, the entire character takes on a more stable shape. However, if you think, I prefer the shape of Kanji character child with the straight second stroke, or I prefer Kanji character child with the first stroke space being narrower than 45 degrees, please practice writing characters in such shapes. The next point is about the height of the third stroke. I'm gonna write an example here. If you create the third stroke like this, and when it goes through the end point of the first stroke or the beginning point of the second stroke, not only does it not look beautiful as the shape of this Kanji character child, but it may also be recognized as writing a wrong shape. On the other hand, if the height of the third stroke is too low, it also doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. When the third stroke goes through a point slightly below the angle of the upper part of the second stroke, the character looks beautiful. However, in cases like this, where the third stroke is lower than that and going through about the middle of the second stroke, the entire character appears to be pulled downwards, giving a heavy impression. Therefore, please pay attention to the height when creating the third stroke. The last point is about the angle of the third stroke. I'm gonna write an example here. For example, when you create the third stroke like this, it's not parallel to the horizontal part of the first stroke. So the character as a whole looks a bit unbalanced. As compared to this character where the third stroke appears parallel to the horizontal part of the first stroke, it looks slightly unbalanced. So please pay attention to the angle of the third stroke as well. With that in mind, try practicing while keep these points and tips in mind. The key points and tips for writing kanji beautifully, as explained in the video, are concisely summarized in this book. Additionally, easily understandable Zen mindsets and philosophical messages are shared in this book. For those who want to practice directly in this book, I've also prepared a workbook. The writing tips and techniques are the same as in the Zen Mindfulness Shodo book. Each page allows you to practice one character. If you're interested, please see the description. When you practice with a brush, I recommend that you place a few pieces of paper under the page that you're writing on, so that the ink doesn't bleed onto the page under it. Alright, let's get started. Before you start writing, take a deep breath and clear your mind. Slowly breathe in as much air as you can through your nose, and exhale all the negative emotions that you've been holding until this moment through your mouth. When you are mentally ready to write, you can start writing. Check the starting point, turning point, end point, the angle of the stroke, the direction of the curve. After that, without hesitation, aim for the end point and move the brush smoothly. Try to write slower than you normally write, putting your heart and soul into each stroke. However, if you move the brush too slowly, the ink will bleed and the lines will become thicker in areas where you don't want them to be thicker. And if you move the brush too quickly, the ink will fade and the lines will become thinner in areas you don't want them to be thinner. Or the ink will disappear midway through, making the strokes shorter than you want them to be. So concentrate on finding the right speed. Once you've finished writing the character, look at the character as a whole and think about what changes you should make next in order to make it look even more beautiful. Is the second stroke curving to the right? Is the height of the third stroke not too high or not too low? Does the third stroke look parallel to the horizontal part of the first stroke? Of course, you don't have to take all the tips and points that I've told you and copy my way of writing the character. Trust your own sense of beauty and adjust accordingly. It's important that you're satisfied with the shapes of the characters you write. So please use my tips and points as ideas and hints for adjusting the shape of the character to your sense of beauty. Of course, you can't change the shape so much that it no longer looks like a character. If you notice that you're thinking about something else while writing, immediately refocus on what you're writing. By repeating this exercise, you'll be able to notice when your attention starts to turn to something unrelated to your current action, and gradually improve your concentration and self-control. You can also build your patience with this practice. So, let's practice together. It's just natural that we are unable to create perfectly satisfying strokes every time. Instead of blaming yourself for not being able to make strokes that you want, try praising yourself for taking on difficult challenges. On this channel, I not only share tips and points for writing Japanese characters beautifully with a pen and a brush, in both English and Japanese, but also practice Zen Mindfulness Shodo meditation that focuses all of our attention on the present moment. If you want to learn how to write other characters, or if you want to use this channel to learn Japanese language, or if you want to keep practicing Zen Mindfulness Shodo meditation with me, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell mark so you get a notification as soon as I upload a new video. If you liked this video, or if you thought the information was useful, please hit the thumbs up button. Also, if you share my videos with people who might be interested, it'll be a good support not only for me, but also for them. Alright, let's learn and practice together again in my next video. Thank you for watching.